There are doors in this world that open differently depending on who is standing in front of them. Not all of them are made of wood or glass or steel. Some of them are made of assumptions. Of a glance that lasts half a second too long. Of a question asked of one person that is never asked of another. Of the particular quality of a pause, before a smile, before a greeting, before the word, welcome, that tells you everything about whether you were expected. Whether you belong. A hotel lobby. Marble floors. The smell of fresh flowers and expensive air conditioning. A man in a worn travel jacket, tired from a flight, carrying a backpack that had seen better years, with a sleeping 7-year-old girl draped across his shoulder like she weighed nothing, because to him she never did. He walked to the front desk. He said his name. And the person behind the desk looked at him, looked at his jacket, his backpack, his face, and said words that no guest at that hotel had ever been asked before. Do you have proof of your reservation? Not unusual, on the surface. Except the man standing there with his sleeping daughter on his shoulder was not a guest at the hotel. He was the owner. Music swells, then cuts to complete silence. He did not raise his voice. He did not reach for his phone to prove himself to someone who should never have required proof. He looked at the person behind the desk with the particular stillness of a man who has encountered this door before, many times, in many forms, and has learned something that most people spend their whole lives searching for. He had learned that dignity is not something a door can give you. And it is not something a door can take away. Stay with me. Because what happened in that lobby in the next 4 minutes changed every life it touched. His name was Marcus James. 44 years old. Single father of a 7-year-old girl named Ava. He owned and operated the James Meridian Hotel, a 4-star boutique property in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, with 92 rooms, a restaurant that had been reviewed 3 times in the city's most respected food publication, and a reputation for the particular quality of service that only comes from a place run by someone who understands what it means to need a room. He had built it. Not inherited it. Not funded by family money or a trust or a network of people who made calls on his behalf. Built it. From a single property, a failing 22-room motel on the outskirts of the city that he had purchased at 31 with every dollar he had saved over 8 years of working hotel management, plus a small business loan from the only bank in Nashville that had said yes after 6 said no. He had managed that motel himself for 2 years. Every shift. Every department. Learning the business from the inside in the way his father had taught him to learn things, from the ground, with your hands, from the people who actually did the work. His father, Robert James, had been a hotel housekeeper for 29 years at a large chain property in Atlanta. He had cleaned rooms, made beds, scrubbed bathrooms, vacuumed corridors, with a consistency and care that his supervisors had noted and promptly filed and never once translated into the kind of recognition that changes a man's life. Robert James had never complained about this. He had come home every evening, changed out of his uniform, and sat at the dinner table with his son Marcus and talked about the hotel. Not with bitterness, with knowledge. With the accumulated expertise of a man who had watched how a hospitality operation worked, what it got right, what it got wrong, and what it would take to get it right. Every room, Robert had told Marcus once, when Marcus was 12 years old, is someone's whole world for one night. A person checking in might be grieving. Might be celebrating. Might be running from something. Might be running toward something. You will never know. Your job is to make sure that when they close that door, they feel like they matter. Marcus had built his entire business on that sentence. From the 22-room motel to the James Meridian, which had opened 4 years ago, after a decade of reinvestment and expansion and the kind of slow, deliberate building that journalists who wrote about overnight successes never understood, every decision had come back to that principle. Every room is someone's whole world for one night. He was known in Nashville's hospitality industry. He was respected by the people who had watched him build, who had seen the quality of what he created, who understood what it meant to compete with institutional chains on the basis of character rather than marketing budget. He was not always recognized. Not immediately. Not by everyone. This was something Marcus James had learned to carry with the same quiet patience he applied to everything else in his life. The learning had not been easy. The carrying had not been painless. But he had decided, somewhere in the accumulated experience of 44 years, that he would not let the cost of being misread become the cost of being him. He was him. Completely. In every room. At every desk. In every meeting. Ava's mother, Christine, had passed away 2.5 years ago. Ovarian cancer. Diagnosed in February, gone in September. 7 months that had been the most concentrated experience of love and loss and the particular courage of watching someone you love fight with everything they have while you stand beside them and refuse to let them see you break. Ava had been 4 years old. She remembered her mother in the way 4-year-olds remember things, in fragments, in sensory flashes, in the particular smell of a perfume and the sound of a song and the feeling of specific arms. Marcus made sure those fragments stayed alive. He kept Christine's photograph on the mantel. He told Ava stories every night, not sad stories, the ones that made Christine vivid and present and real in the house on Maple Avenue rather than absent and mourned and gone. He had a ritual with Ava that had started the week after Christine passed and had not broken since. Every morning, before school, Ava climbed into the kitchen chair, the one she had claimed at age 2 and had been hers ever since, and Marcus made her breakfast. Not anything elaborate. Scrambled eggs and toast, because Ava had decided at age 3 that scrambled eggs were the best food in the world and had not yet seen reason to revise this position. While he cooked, he talked. About the day ahead. About what she was looking forward to. About the small particular things that made up the interior world of a 7-year-old who had grown up in the orbit of a hotel and understood, in ways her classmates didn't, that every person who walked through a door was carrying something. "What do you think the guests feel when they walk into our hotel, Baba?" she had asked him once, at age 6, in the kitchen, watching him cook. He had thought about it. "Like they matter," he had said. She had nodded, satisfied, and returned to watching the eggs. The health challenge in Ava's life was not a medical condition but something that required constant, careful attention nonetheless. She had been diagnosed with severe anxiety following her mother's death, compounded by the sensory processing differences that had always been part of how she experienced the world. The right therapist, the right school, the right environment, these things cost money and attention and the kind of parental presence that could not be delegated. Marcus paid for all of it. He was also, and this was the part of his life that nobody outside his innermost circle knew, funding a scholarship program for children of hotel industry workers. Started quietly, without announcement, 3 years ago. Named, without fanfare, after his father. The Robert James Hospitality Scholarship. 12 recipients a year. He had never told a journalist. He had never told a business contact. He had told Ava. She had looked at him and said, "That's for Grandpa Robert." "Yes, baby," he had said. "Good," she had said. And gone back to her drawing. The flight from Chicago had been delayed by 2 hours. Marcus had been at a hospitality industry conference, 3 days, speaking on one panel, attending 4 others, doing the quiet work of being present in a professional community that still, occasionally, required him to be more present than his white counterparts to be equally visible. He had brought Ava. She came with him on travel when the schedule allowed, not because he couldn't arrange care, but because he had promised himself, after Christine, that he would not be a father whose child was primarily managed by other people. The conference had childcare facilities. Ava had spent 2 days in the hotel's kids program while Marcus worked, and the evenings with him, room service and bad movies and the particular happiness of a hotel bed that she declared, every time, to be a cloud, Baba, it's literally a cloud. She had fallen asleep on his shoulder somewhere over Kentucky. She was still asleep when they landed. Still asleep in the car. Still asleep, head on his shoulder, one hand gripping the strap of his jacket, completely trusting the universe to be managed by him while she was unavailable, when he walked through the glass doors of the James Meridian Hotel at 11:47 p.m. He had not called ahead to announce his arrival. He never did. He preferred to see his hotel the way his guests saw it, without preparation, without polish applied in advance of his presence. It was how his father had taught him quality worked. If it's only good when someone important is watching, it isn't good. The lobby was quiet at this hour. The overnight team, smaller than the day staff, operating with the particular focused calm of people who understood that 11 p.m. in a hotel was a different world than 11 a.m. The front desk had one person on duty. His name was Trevor Walsh. 26 years old. 8 months at the James Meridian. Previously at a mid-range chain property across town. He had come with strong references, a pleasant manner in the interview, and the kind of smooth professional friendliness that looked, on the surface, like genuine warmth. Marcus had hired him personally. He approached the desk. Ava shifted slightly on his shoulder but didn't wake. Trevor looked up. He saw a man in a travel-wrinkled jacket. A backpack. A sleeping child. Dark skin. Tired eyes. He did not see the owner of the building he was standing in. "Good evening," Trevor said. The smile was there. The slight cooling behind the eyes was also there, if you knew how to look. "Checking in?" "Just returning," Marcus said. "I'll need the key for the owner's suite." A pause. The kind of pause that is not about processing information. The kind that is about a decision being made. "I'm sorry," Trevor said. "Do you have a reservation?" Marcus looked at him. "I'm Marcus James." Another pause. "Do you have ID, sir?" The lobby was quiet. The elevator chimed somewhere above them. Ava's breath was warm and steady on Marcus's neck. He thought about his father. 29 years of making beds in a hotel where nobody knew his name unless they needed something. Of coming home in a uniform that smelled like cleaning products and never once, not once, letting Marcus see bitterness in his face. He thought about the principle he had built this place on. Every room is someone's whole world for one night. He thought about what it meant to be standing in his own lobby at 11:47 p.m. with his sleeping daughter on his shoulder, being asked for identification. He said nothing for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket pocket, the one that always held his room key, his business cards, and the small laminated photograph of Christine he had carried since the day she died, and placed his business card on the desk. Marcus James. Owner and CEO, James Meridian Hotel Group. Trevor looked at the card. Then at Marcus. Then at the card again. The cooling behind his eyes had been replaced by something else, the particular quality of a person who has just understood that they have made a mistake of significant proportions and is calculating, in real time, how to recover from it. But recovery, in this instance, was not something Trevor Walsh had the tools for. Because Marcus James had not moved. He was standing at the desk of his own hotel, his daughter asleep on his shoulder, looking at the person he had hired, who he had trusted with the front line of everything his father's philosophy had built, and he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Not anger. Something older and more specific than anger. Grief, almost. The grief of a man who builds something for a reason and finds the reason violated in the building itself. Music drops, near silence. He looked past Trevor. The night manager, a woman named Sandra Reyes who had been with the James Meridian since the day it opened, who had been in the back office finishing end-of-day reporting, appeared in the doorway behind the desk. She saw Marcus. Her face changed immediately, the change of someone who has just understood exactly what they walked into. "Mr. James," she said. Her voice was steady, but there was something in it, a controlled quality, the voice of a person containing a very large feeling in a professional context. "Sandra," Marcus said. She came around the desk. She took his key from the drawer where it was kept. She handed it to him directly, with both hands, in the particular way that in his father's tradition meant, "I see you. I'm sorry. This will be handled." Marcus took the key. He looked at Trevor Walsh one more time. Not with anger. Not with the performance of authority. With the same pity Elias Monroe had looked at a bully in a cafe. The pity of a man who understands that the person in front of him has just made a mistake they will be learning from for a very long time. "Good night," Marcus said. He carried Ava to the elevator. He pressed the button for the top floor. The doors closed. Ava woke up in the owner's suite. She always woke up slightly confused in hotel rooms. It took her a moment to locate herself, to run through the inventory of where she was and what had happened and whether the world was where she had left it. She found the ceiling first. Then the curtains. Then her father in the chair by the window, still in his jacket, a glass of water in his hand, looking at the city lights below. "Baba. Hey, baby. We're at our hotel." "We are." She sat up. Looked around with the assessing eyes of a child who has grown up around hotels and notices things that adult guests overlook. The turn-down service. The water on the nightstand. The way the curtains fell. "Did Carmen do the turn-down?" she asked. Carmen was the housekeeper Ava had decided was her favorite. "I think so," Marcus said. "She always folds the corner exactly right," Ava said, examining the sheet. "See? Exactly right." Marcus looked at his daughter, 7 years old, assessing hotel linen with the eye of someone who had absorbed a philosophy of quality through proximity rather than instruction. "Yeah," he said. "Exactly right." Ava looked at him. The way she looked at him, her mother's eyes, his father's patience, when she sensed something had happened that she wasn't being told about. "Baba. What happened?" "Nothing, baby. Long flight." She studied him for a moment. "Grandpa Robert says," she said carefully, she had started doing this lately, invoking his father's wisdom in the way children invoke authority when they sense it will carry weight, that the hotel knows when something is wrong. "He says it's like a person. It knows." Marcus looked at his daughter. He had told her that. He had told her Robert James had said it. He had passed it on the way Robert had passed it to him, casually, in the ordinary run of daily conversation, as a fact about the world rather than a lesson. And she had kept it. Filed it somewhere accessible. And produced it now, at 11 p.m. in a hotel suite, because she sensed her father needed it. "Yeah," Marcus said quietly. "It does. Is everything okay with our hotel?" He looked at her for a long moment. He thought about the lobby. About the pause. About a card placed on a desk in his own building. He thought about Robert James. 29 years. Uniform. No bitterness at the dinner table. "It will be," he said. Ava looked at him with the absolute trust of a child who has never once had reason to doubt that statement when her father made it. Okay, she said. She lay back down. Baba, she said, already drifting. Yeah. When I'm bigger I want to run our hotel. He looked at her. Which parts, he said. All of it, she said. But especially the part where people feel like they matter. He sat with that for a long time after she was asleep. The city lights outside. The sound of Nashville breathing at midnight. He picked up his phone. He sent one text. To Sandra Reyes. Full review. Every policy. Every training record. Every hire in the last 12 months. Tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. My office. He set the phone down. He looked at Ava. He thought about the scholarship. About 12 kids a year who would grow up understanding that the hotel industry was something they could build, not just serve. Who would carry Robert James's name without knowing it as the reason doors had opened for them. He thought about what it meant to build something and find it had fallen short of the reason you built it. And he decided what to do about it. The 7 a.m. meeting in Marcus's office lasted 4 hours. Sandra Reyes had spent the night preparing. She arrived with documentation, hiring records, training logs, customer incident reports, the results of the quarterly mystery guest evaluations that Marcus ran every 3 months without telling any staff member when they were happening. She placed them on the desk. She also placed something else. A file she had compiled herself, over the past 3 hours, that she handed to Marcus with both hands and did not explain verbally because she felt the documents explained themselves. It was a record of incidents. Small ones. Easy to dismiss individually. Hard to dismiss accumulated. A guest in room 340, a black physician attending a medical conference, who had been asked for his credit card 3 times before check-in was completed, while the white guest behind him was processed in under 2 minutes. A family, a grandmother, her adult daughter, 2 grandchildren, who had been placed in a smoking-adjacent room despite a non-smoking request confirmed at booking, and whose request to move had been delayed for 3 hours. A business traveler who had noted in his post-stay survey, "Staff were pleasant to my colleagues but seemed unsure what to do with me specifically." None of these incidents had escalated. None had been formally complained about. All of them had been absorbed by the guests the way people absorb these things, quietly, with the exhaustion of people who have encountered this specific kind of door too many times to spend energy on every instance. Marcus read the file. Then he read it again. Sandra sat across the desk and let him. When he finished, he set it down. "How long have you had this?" he said. "The incidents go back 7 months, she said. "I started compiling 3 months ago. I wasn't sure when to bring it to you." "You should have brought it immediately," he said. Not angry. Clear. "Yes," she said. "I should have." He nodded. "We're not going to talk about what that means right now. We're going to talk about what we do." What Marcus James did over the following 6 weeks was not dramatic. It was methodical. He rebuilt the hotel's hiring and training program from the foundation, not by adding a module or updating a policy document, but by starting from the principle. His father's principle. Every room is someone's whole world for one night. And asking, for every process in the building, does this serve that principle? Does this protect it? Does this guarantee it regardless of who is standing at the desk? He brought in an external hospitality training organization, one led by a woman named Dr. Patricia Cole who had spent 20 years studying bias in service industries and who had a methodology Marcus recognized as the real thing because it was built on the same foundation his father had given him, the understanding that excellent service was not a performance. It was a practice. He was present for every training session. Every one. Not to supervise, to participate. He sat in the sessions alongside his staff, from the front desk to the housekeeping team to the restaurant, and worked through the material as a peer rather than an authority. Because his father had taught him that the most important lessons don't land when they're delivered from above. Ava had a tracking system. She had created it without being asked, a notebook, kept in her school bag, with a page for each week. At the top, Hotel Project. Below, a column for what her father told her he had done that week, and a column she had labeled, "Did it work?" which she updated based on his Friday evening report. "She reviews me every Friday," Marcus told Sandra one morning, with the expression of a man who finds this both humbling and exactly right. "Good," Sandra said. "Someone should." Trevor Walsh had been let go the morning after the incident. Not dramatically. Not publicly. With the particular precision of a man who understood that how you fire someone says as much about your institution as how you hire them. Marcus had sat with him in the office. Had told him directly what had happened and why the decision had been made. Had given him 2 weeks severance. Had told him one thing before he left. "The person you didn't see last night, he built everything in this building. But that's not actually the point. The point is that you didn't see him. Work on that. Whatever comes next for you, work on that. Trevor had nodded. Had not been able to hold eye contact. Had left. Marcus had sat in the office after he left and thought about his father. About what it costs, across a lifetime, to be the person who is not seen. About what it costs to build the building and still not be seen inside it. About what it would cost Ava, in the years ahead, when she walked through doors that hadn't been built for her. He sat with that. And then he got back to work. Before I tell you what happened when the world finally turned its full attention to Marcus James and the hotel he built, I need to stop. Right here. Because this story is not about a hotel. It is not about a lobby or a front desk or a man being asked for ID in his own building. It is about what a father builds, not with money, not with ambition, but with a principle passed from a grandfather to a father to a child. With a sentence said over a dinner table. With 29 years of making beds in a hotel where nobody knew your name. With the accumulated weight of showing up, every day, in every room, and making sure that whoever closed that door felt like they mattered. I want to ask you something. Think about your father. Not the version from the family album. The real one. The one who went to work in a uniform. Whose hands showed what he did. Who came home tired, the specific tired that lives in the body, not just the mind, and sat down at the dinner table and asked about your day anyway. The one who never let you see the cost. Who never brought the door home with him. Who built things, quietly, over years, without applause, so that you would have something to walk through. If your dad is your hero. If your dad was pushed back by a world that didn't see him clearly. If your dad built something with his whole life and handed it to you without ceremony. Then this moment is his. Subscribe to the Single Brave Dad Stories, right now, for your dad. Not for the views. Not for the algorithm. For him. Press that bell icon, for every door he walked through that didn't open easily. For every morning he put on a uniform and went back. Give this video a thumbs up, for every dinner table where he sat down tired and asked about your day anyway. Share this video, send it to someone whose father built something the world didn't see. Send it to a father who is out there right now, making sure the room is right, making sure the door opens well, making sure the people inside feel like they matter. Tell him, we see you. Tell him, every room you've ever prepared, we know what it cost. Tell him, you are someone's whole world. The Single Brave Dad Stories. Because every father deserves to be seen. Now, back to Marcus. Because what happens when the world finally looks properly will take your breath away. The article ran in a national hospitality trade publication 4 months after the lobby incident. Not because Marcus had called them. He hadn't. It ran because a journalist named Diane Park had been researching a piece on black ownership in the American hotel industry, a subject that the industry's own statistics made both important and underreported, and had come across the James Meridian in the course of her research. She had booked a room. She had stayed 3 nights. She had written, in the opening paragraph of her piece, there are hotels that have service policies and hotels that have service philosophies. The difference is immediately apparent and almost impossible to fake for 3 consecutive days. The James Meridian, Nashville, has a philosophy. I'm still thinking about it 2 weeks later. The article ran 6,000 words. It covered Marcus's career, the motel, the expansion, the decade of building. It covered his father Robert and the 29 years of housekeeping that had produced the philosophy that had produced the hotel. It covered the Robert James Hospitality Scholarship, which Diane Park had uncovered through a source and which Marcus had confirmed when asked, because he did not lie, even about things he hadn't announced. It covered the lobby incident. Marcus had not mentioned it. Sandra Reyes had not mentioned it. But Trevor Walsh had mentioned it, to a friend, in a conversation that had found its way to Diane Park's research. And Diane had called Marcus, directly, and asked. He had answered directly. He told her what had happened. What he had done after. What the training program was. What the file Sandra had compiled said. What the scholarship was for. He did not editorialize. He did not perform outrage. He gave her the facts in the same tone in which he discussed anything about his business, the voice of a man who had decided that the way to address what was wrong was to build what was right, and who had no particular interest in being celebrated for it. Diane Park had sat with her recording device for a moment after he finished. Mr. James, she said. You were denied entry to your own hotel. You were asked for ID in a building you own. And your response was to spend 6 weeks rebuilding your training program and to continue funding a scholarship you've never told anyone about. Yes, Marcus said. Why didn't you call a press conference? He thought about Robert James. About 29 years. About dinner tables and uniforms and the particular dignity of a man who did not need his excellence confirmed by someone else's attention. Because the work, Marcus said, is the answer. Not the press conference. Diane Park looked at him. Your father said something like that, she said. He said it better, Marcus said. The article was published on a Thursday. By Friday morning, it had been shared 47,000 times. By Sunday, Marcus's phone had received calls from 4 national publications, 2 television morning shows, and the offices of 3 hospitality industry associations who wanted to discuss his training methodology. He answered them all with the same measured calm. He said yes to the things that would serve the scholarship. He said no to the things that were about him rather than the work. He took Ava to school on Monday morning, the same as every Monday morning. Made scrambled eggs. Talked about her day ahead. Did not tell her about the 47,000 shares. She found out from her teacher, who had read the article over the weekend. She came home that afternoon with her notebook. She opened it to the Hotel Project page. In the Did It Work column, she wrote one word. Yes. And underlined it 3 times. Trevor Walsh read the article on his phone, in his apartment, on a Saturday morning. He had been let go from the James Meridian 4 months ago. He had found work at another property, a mid-range chain across town, where the onboarding had taken 3 days and the training had covered emergency procedures and customer complaint protocols and the hotel's loyalty program, and nothing else. He had thought about Marcus James's office. About the 2-week severance. About the thing Marcus had said before he left. The person you didn't see last night, he built everything in this building. But that's not actually the point. The point is that you didn't see him work on that. He had been working on it. Imperfectly. Inconsistently. With the particular difficulty of examining a reflex that you didn't know you had until you watched it operate in real time and saw what it did. He read the article in full. He read about Robert James and 29 years of housekeeping and a dinner table in Atlanta where a philosophy had been passed to a son. He read about the scholarship. About 12 kids a year. About a name on a fund that the man who funded it had never announced. He read about the training program. About Dr. Patricia Cole and 6 weeks of sessions that Marcus had attended as a peer. He put his phone down. He sat with it for a long time. He thought about the pause. The pause before he'd asked for ID. The pause that was not about processing information. He understood now, more clearly than he had in Marcus's office, because understanding takes time and discomfort and the willingness to keep looking at something you would prefer to look away from, what the pause had been. What it had come from. What it had said, without words, to the man standing on the other side of the desk. He picked up his phone. He did not search for Marcus James's contact information. He searched instead for Dr. Patricia Cole. The training organization. He found their website. Found a section on individual development resources. Found an online course, the same foundational material, apparently, that the James Meridian staff had worked through. He enrolled. He did not tell anyone. He did not contact Marcus James. Marcus James never knew this moment happened. And it didn't matter, because Marcus's story was not about Trevor Walsh's journey toward understanding. Marcus's story was about his father. About his daughter. About the building he had made out of a philosophy passed at a dinner table in Atlanta. About the 12 kids every year who would go further because Robert James had spent 29 years making beds with the dignity of a man who understood that excellence is its own answer. Trevor Walsh's reckoning was real. But it was Trevor Walsh's to have. Not Marcus's to wait for. The James Meridian Hotel was the same. That was the thing that people who visited after the article expected to be different, more prominent, more polished, more self-conscious of its own significance, and found instead to be exactly what it had always been. 92 rooms. The restaurant with the 3 reviews. The turn-down service where Carmen folded the corner exactly right. The front desk where the greeting was the same for everyone who walked through the door. Not because of a policy. Because of a philosophy. Marcus drove the same truck. He still arrived before the day shift on most mornings. Still walked the property the way his father had walked it in his imagination, room by room, corridor by corridor, the way you inspect something you love rather than something you own. The scholarship had grown. The article had brought donors, quietly, through back channels, people who had read about the Robert James Hospitality Scholarship and contacted the hotel directly to contribute. Marcus had accepted the contributions and expanded the program to 18 recipients a year. He had not held a press event. He had sent handwritten notes to each donor. His father had taught him that. Ava was in 2nd grade now. She had joined the school's hospitality club, a new after-school program at her school, started by a teacher who had read the article and decided that the hotel industry should be part of what children in Nashville learned was available to them. She came home from the first meeting with her notebook. She sat across from Marcus at the kitchen table, the same chair that had been hers since she was 2, and told him about the club. He listened. All of it. Baba, she said when she was done. Yeah, baby. We talked about what makes a hotel good. My teacher asked the class. What did you say? Ava looked at him with the expression she wore when she was about to say something she had been thinking about for a while. I said, when you close the door, you feel like you matter. Marcus looked at his daughter. 7 years old. Her mother's eyes. Her grandfather's words in her mouth. The generational thread, Robert to Marcus to Ava, complete and continuing. Yeah, he said. Did I get it right? He looked at her for a long time. You got it exactly right, he said. On a Saturday morning, the first Saturday of every month, without exception, Marcus James and Ava James walked the hotel. Not as an inspection. Not as a management exercise. As a ritual. They started at the lobby. Ava always checked the flowers, which she had decided was her specific responsibility, and moved through the restaurant, the corridors, the common spaces, ending always on the top floor where the window at the end of the hall looked out over Nashville. Ava always stood at that window for a minute. She had started doing this at age 5 and had never explained why. Marcus had never asked. On this particular Saturday, 8 months after the article, with the scholarship now in its 5th year and the training program in its 2nd full iteration, they stood at the window together. Nashville below them. Saturday morning light. The sound of the city doing what cities do on Saturdays. Baba, Ava said. Yeah. Tell me about Grandpa Robert again. He looked at his daughter. He told her. Not the abbreviated version. The full one. The 29 years. The dinner table. The uniform that smelled like cleaning products. The philosophy that had never been written down anywhere except in Marcus's memory and now in Ava's. She listened the way she always listened, completely, storing everything. The way a person stores things they understand are important before they fully understand why. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. When I run our hotel, she said, I'm going to name something after him. Something people see every day. Like what? She thought about it with the focused seriousness of a 7-year-old architect. The lobby, she said. So every person who walks in, the first thing therein is Robert James's space. Marcus looked at his daughter at the window. At Nashville below. At the light on her face, her mother's face, his father's patience, her own completely original certainty. He thought about a door. About what it costs when it doesn't open. About what it means to build the door yourself. About what it means to give the door to your child. Ava, he said. Yeah, Baba. He would have loved you. She looked up at him. Then she looked back at Nashville. I know, she said. I'm going to make him proud anyway. Outside, the city moved in its Saturday way. And in a hotel named for the man who built it, on a floor named for the man who taught him how. Everything was exactly right. A door. That's where this story began. A door that didn't open the way it should have. In a building that a man built with his own hands. With his father's philosophy. With 29 years of a grandfather's dignity absorbed at a dinner table in Atlanta. A door in his own hotel. That required him to prove himself. And what he did, in the 4 minutes after that door stayed closed, was not fight it. Was not perform outrage. Was not demand to be seen. He carried his sleeping daughter to the elevator. He pressed the button for the top floor. He sent one text. And then he went to work. This story was not about a hotel. It was not about racism or justice or institutional failure, though all of those things lived inside it. It was about a man named Robert James who made beds for 29 years and came home every evening and sat at a dinner table and passed something to his son that no paycheck had ever reflected and no award had ever acknowledged. Every room is someone's whole world for one night. And about a son who built an empire on that sentence. And about a daughter who will carry it further than either of them can see from here. Right now, before you do anything else. Close your eyes. Think about your father. Not the public version. Not the one in the photographs. The real one. The one in the uniform. Whose hands told you what his days were made of? Who came home and sat down and asked about yours? The one who walked through doors that didn't open easily, every day, for years, and never once brought the weight of it to the dinner table. The one who passed you something. Not money. Not a building. Not a name in a newspaper. A way of being. A sentence. A philosophy. The one who showed up. Every single time. Long pause. Only breathing. Only silence. If your dad is your hero. If your dad built something with his whole life and handed it to you quietly, without ceremony. If your dad walked through doors that should have opened differently and did it with his head up. Then this moment is his. Subscribe to the Single Brave Dad Stories, right now, for your dad. Not for the algorithm. Not for the numbers. For him. Press that bell icon, for every morning he put on a uniform and went back. For every door he pushed open when it resisted. For every dinner table where he passed you something worth more than anything you could put a price on. Give this video a thumbs up. For every room he prepared that felt like it mattered because he made it matter. For every person he served with more dignity than they knew what to do with. Share this video right now. Send it to someone whose father built something in silence. Send it to a father who is making beds or making breakfast or making something possible right now, tonight, for someone they love more than the world will ever understand. Tell him, we see you. Tell him, every room you've ever made right, we know what it cost. Tell him, you are someone's whole world. The Single Brave Dad Stories. Because every father deserves to be seen. Every sacrifice deserves to be remembered. Every door, built by the right man, from the right principle, opens for everyone. Until next time. Build from the foundation. Serve from the philosophy. Pass it down. The quiet ones, they always build the doors that last.